Everybody, it's Leroy from Leroy Gaming. It's Thursday. This news from Outriders, and it's as if people can fly. I knew it was my birthday this Saturday the 14th because they finally it's gonna give you some important fixes. It's gonna have buffs for all the classes. It's now live for those on PC, and soon, hopefully, for those on Xbox. So let's take a look at everything that you need to know about this really, really important patch right after this. All right, guys, there's so much to go into, so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to go over all the most important parts of this patch. So this is really important. They say, please ensure you update to the latest version of the game. You may not be able to log in until you do, for example. And in the past, I've had that where people say, oh man, why can't I log into the game? It's crashing. Let's talk about the main notes, and then we're going to get into the nitty gritty. Kind of like just standing there and not moving, and then all of a sudden you kind of teleport, literally like a rubber band. The notification system will no longer take your equipped items into account when checking whether to reroll a drop duplicate. So this is that big change they're talking about for a while that people voted on. So now, let's say you already have, your best in slot weapon, but not a perfect roll. You no longer have to either destroy it or put it on a mule in order to get a new one. This is a really, I think, a good change here. Now, fix an issue that could cause Pyromancer or Thermal Bombs to lose all charges and enter full cooldown if a player was interrupted while casting a skill. Ouch. Didn't know about that. I don't use Thermal Bomb builds right now because, unfortunately, they're not like meta. But we'll see. So nice that that's fixed. Improve the targeting of Trickster's Venerator Knife, so it should now be going to jump around. I know this ruined the playstyle for a lot of people. To all frozen targets, no matter how they've been frozen. So I don't know if that was because Devastator's status set and changed its description to match its behavior. So the new description is, while either Tremor or Golem is active, increase firepower, doubling it. So it's not making it so you have 100% life leech, which some people I think were confused about. So if you only had like 10% weapon leech, this would increase it to 20. If you had 5, it goes to 10. So the more weapon leech you already have, the better this is going to be. So you're going to want to make sure, more likely than not, because there aren't that many skills or skill nodes for the Devastator that have weapon leech. Most likely you're going to get maybe 5% on average from that. So you're going to need to get it on a weapon. So I believe like the Death Shield shotgun, that one has, it's a really good shotgun that also has life leech, weapon life leech. And so you can get this set means that the bonus can now be maintained for longer, which is important because 8 seconds just isn't long enough for this to be effective. Fixed an issue that could cause low damage threshold mods to trigger immediately after death or after a lobby. I had that show up, but normally once they actually got in a group, they would show at 50. Fix some sync subtleties. So those are all the little initial things, but this is just the warm-up. This is your appetizer. Overall, at all the buffs, class by class. By the bullet absorption mod has been increased to 40%, previously 33%. This is actually nice. This is going to kind of up it in effectiveness. That extra 7% is going to be noticeable. So reload boost will now increase anomaly power instead of firepower. And lava shot will now increase. Before it used to be your anomaly power by 25%. Now it's going to increase your firepower by 25%. And reload boost was basically a big 50% boost that once you reloaded, so once you lost your volcanic rounds and you reload, see how this works. I mean, this makes more sense. And then probably the most unnecessary buff in this patch. As you guys know, probably the most overpowered Pyromancer builds, even if you don't hack. And I'm going to have an updated video on a build 7 seconds off of this. You're going to be able to basically align all of your abilities on Ash Blast, which may be overkill. You might be able to, have a little less cooldown towards Ash Blast potentially. But this is a big, big deal for those using these builds. And then another one, this second one actually I think is really, really good. The buff 8 seconds. This is a big, big deal. There were times where you'd get the death sentence buff. This would drop off. So don't underestimate that buff from 5 to 8 seconds is huge. Again, it's going to be big on are just getting better and better. I really do wish that they had buffed this class in particular. I feel all they really did was re-emphasize what was already meta. Reduce the cooldown of borrow time by 5.5 seconds from 13.5 to 8 seconds. Wow. Okay. Why is this important? This is really, really important because with a lot of your cooldown reductions, you get this down to around 10 seconds, but you would still have downtime. Now, with this being 8 seconds, this is huge, boys. Your cooldown on this is probably going to be about 5 to 6 seconds, which means based around borrowed time, not as a buff skill, but actually as that whole idea of teleporting back to save yourself. Do leave a comment below. Love to hear it. Have not heard of anybody using it that way, but you know, I don't talk to everybody. Slow trap. This is the ability that everybody thought was so cool, but doesn't get used in meta very often. Cooldown of slow trap has been reduced by 9.7 seconds. This is also huge. I don't know how much more it's going to be used, but the fact it goes from 30.7 seconds, which is way too much, to 21 seconds is huge. You're going to have a bunch of cooldown reductions. You're going to be talking about getting this down to maybe 13 to 15 seconds. That's awesome. Time Rift. So this is a big deal because a lot of the speed runs and the time metas have to do with Time Rift. I'm going to be putting, I haven't personally played around with Time Rift that much, but I'm going to be messing around now that this is buffed, probably with some builds for it. The cooldown of Time Rift has been reduced by 3.4 seconds from 15.4 seconds to 12 seconds. Significant. Increase the dot damage of a little bit of pain mod by 71%. Now this is important because this AP scaling. So this is, instead of it calculating 35% of your total anomaly power, it's going to scale off 60% of your anomaly power. So if you get really high levels of anomaly power, this is going to do a lot more damage over the dot period. Now, even 7 seconds when you're kind of decked out and min-maxed, but definitely is going to make a little bit of pain be a little bit more of pain, or a lot more pain. Next, increase the armor and resistance debuff provided by Time Crack mod to 35%, previously by 25%. So again, it's a nice debuff. One of the things that Tricksters do not have innately is a way for firepower builds to bypass armor penetration easily. Same with, so for example, a Technomancer, your toxic rounds, basically, they completely bypass all armor. That's why it does so much damage. The problem with other classes, if they can't bypass armor with their normal bullets, they're just going, once they hit a target that has a lot of armor, they're gonna be hitting like a wet noodle. It's a big problem Devastators face with firepower builds. So this is a buff, which is nice. How often it's gonna be utilized, I don't know. I'm not sure yet, but it is a nice buff. And then increase the weapon cleave damage provided by Pain Transfer mod to 20% weapon damage, previously 10% weapon damage. So this is actually significant. And I thought they were also going to increase how much anomaly power it shared. So correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody has seen previous notes, do check it out and tell me, confirm with me if this got, maybe I'm wrong. But this is a big deal. Shotgun builds, that's why you use it. The anomaly power it's a nice bonus, but most builds. The changes to Trickster, I love the changes to this. And you know, I'm going to be excited here because it's time for the Technomancer. Pain Launcher, reduce the base cooldown of Pain Launcher by 10 seconds from 40 seconds to 30 seconds. This is going to be fascinating. Why? So I have a build that is not meta, but I would love for you to check it out. Hopefully I don't forget, I'm gonna link it. It's called The Most Interesting. Get Pain Launcher down probably closer to 5 seconds cooldown. So would make Pain Launcher absolutely spammable every couple of seconds. Now it's still hard to target, it's still not optimal, but if you are one of the people that has enjoyed my most interesting build in the world, this is just gonna make it more ridiculous where you're spamming Missile Blast all over the place. You could probably do some modifications to do more damage to the Pain Launcher itself, more AoE damage, etc. Would be really fun. Next, Scrapnel. Reduce the base cooldown of Scrapnel by 5 seconds from 22 seconds to 17 seconds. This is beautiful. If you use either one of my explosion builds, do check those out under my build section. I felt like by the time I used the other abilities, like the Missile Launcher, Scrapnel was pretty much on cooldown, but there were a couple of seconds, probably 3 to 5 seconds, where I had downtime, so I would probably do a Moaning Winds rotation. Now with this change, you can use either one of my explosion builds, either with the missile launcher or without, and you probably won't have to use Moaning Winds at all. You can just spam Scrapnel and the other abilities, the turrets, etc., nonstop as an option, and then increase the base damage of Scrapnel by 19%. Now this is huge because it's based on AP scaling. You don't know, well, maybe you do know. But again, anytime it increases the AP scaling, this is going to exponentially increase with how much AP you have. So going from a 0.756 AP to a 0.9%, so 90% of your AP damage is going to be calculated. This is going to make Scrapnel build just absolutely nutter butter, boys. Nutter butter. It's going to be awesome. Make him even more viable. In fact, I'm here to say right now that Technomancer is going to have more viable endgame builds after this patch than any other class. It's going to be awesome. Which leads me to the final buff, which, if you guys know me, and my kind of infamous, famous little Terminator build I created, I'm going to have 2 new variants of it coming out in the next week or 2 with new build videos. But they just took the focus on turrets and my Terminator builds and took them to an 11. Now, will it compete DPS to DPS directly to Blighted rounds? Probably not. But if you like just plopping down turrets, having them destroy everything, you're going to have ways to do it with some shooting. The Blighted round variants are going to be helped by this as well, like my Mr. Toxic Freeze builds, etc. But the big thing here is that Hail Shot mod now has its SPF set to 1.5, previously 1.0 or 1.0. So SPF controls how much the mod benefits from status power attributes. This change effectively means that the damage increase provided by a Hail Shot will increase by 50%, though the effectiveness of this improvement still depends on the character's status power attributes. So, for those who don't know, normally status power only buffs damage over time effects, and also increases how long enemies are debuffed, right? Well, Hail Shot makes it so that status power now directly increases the damage of Cryo Turret, which has always been a must-get on any of the turret builds that I've created. This is now going to increase that by 50%. What does this mean? It basically means you want to make sure you have status power on as many pieces of gear and armor as possible. So my kind of clean Terminator builds, you're going to have it on every piece. And my new Cryo Terminator build that's going to be coming out, you're going to do your best to get as much on it as well. That one's a little wonky because we're trying to use that 3-sit bonus of Borealis Monarch as well. But don't underestimate this buff. If you love turrets like I do, this is going to be so good, especially when you use the twin mods to get 2 cryo turrets out. It's gonna make your cryo turret damage go through the roof. Amazing. All right, so that's for Technomancer. All right, so that's for Technomancer. Now, last but not least, we got the Devastator. So we're going to start with Boulder Dash. This is probably the most underused ability in the game, sadly. So using this skill now provides a significant 65% damage reduction during its animation. So those of you that don't know, Boulder Dash basically run through like Juggernaut through a bunch of enemies. At the end, you kind of slam down. And anything you run through, you do damage to. There's mods that we can make things bleed, etc., etc. The problem is it's kind of hard to control, and also you could get kind of beat up while you're doing the running. You're sitting duck. So I actually had a build I made a long time ago, and it just wasn't performing well enough. Called the Juggernaut build. I may try and revive it. So this is going to make you more tanky, but more importantly is the second part. Players can now press trigger again to use the AoE attack during the run animation. I have to test this, if this will end it early or whether you can use it. And then it procs again at the end. Because I'm making this right as soon as I could, I haven't had a chance to test this thoroughly. So if anybody who watches this video checks it out and can confirm whether this means now it can proc mid-run and also at the end, or if it just ends early, do leave a comment below to let other viewers know. But that's a nice upgrade. Is it enough to make it usable? I don't know. Not sure. I'm still leaning on probably not, but it could help, especially since you can get that cooldown really, really low. One thing I will point out, the set around this is horrible. So the set for this, that gives you like 90% reduction, has a bunch of firepower on it, which if I want to do a boulder dash where it actually focusing on it doing damage, I would want to actually have AP on it, which is how I tried to build it. But if you're using it just for a pure movement ability, well, this isn't so great anymore because it's not going to scale very well as far as AoE damage. So I feel they need to redesign the set, honestly. I forget the name of the set because I never use it. But there's a set that basically makes it that it reduces the cooldown for the boulder dash by 90%. So like you have like a 2-second cooldown, which is great if you're spamming it for damage. For movement, not so much. You're going to want to jump around any day of the week over running through stuff. Endless Mass. Huge change here, boys. Enemies affected by Endless Mass can now be damaged and killed during the animation. Thank goodness. Before this, it made Endless Mass useless. When somebody would like Endless Mass your main target, and you're using your main cooldowns or your main abilities, and all of a sudden it's basically protected from damage. Sure, you nuked all the ads, who cares? It was useless, now it could be useful. And change the Wide Horizons mod so that on top of the range increase, the mod will allow Endless Mass to ignore the enemy skill Absorbing Skin, used by Alpha Perforos and Brood Mothers. This is a big deal because I believe this basically makes it so you can bypass, you can basically just do damage. Absorbing Skin, I believe, just absorb the damage. Basically makes them, when they had Absorbing skill active, good luck doing damage to them in that situation. So this is going to help out a lot. It just, TLDR, it's going to make it so Endless Mass is useful. It's going to target the primary target, and you're going to be able to do more damage to things that are within that effect during that effect. So it's never really wasted, which was a big problem before. Reflect Bullets. Ending the skill early will now refund a part of the cooldown, up to 90%. Now here's the only problem, is that most people use a mod that basically allows you to channel this while moving and basically channel it and also attack. So this cooldown element only is effective if you use the main use of it, which means you can hold it up to 10 seconds and you can't attack. It absorbs all damage. It becomes kind of meat shield, which is okay for single player. For multiplayer, it's pretty much useless. But I don't think that's that great. Now, it also says universal buffs. What the heck does that mean? I'm wondering if this really meant it's a category for armor, mod, and buffs, like its own category, or if they actually universally buffed the Reflect Bullets, meaning did more damage. I did some testing on the stream last night. Without the mod that increases its damage, this hits like a wet noodle, the Reflect Bullets. If you use the mod that increases the base damage by like 110,000 damage, I regularly reflected for about 200k or so. 200, 220k, which is not bad. But I'm curious to see what this really means, and whether it's a typo. If they actually did buff the damage or elements of the bullets, that'd be awesome, but we shall see. All right, let's move on to other buffs. So armor mod buffs. So personal space will have its damage bonus increase from 15% to 25%. That's pretty darn good. I believe this is the one that increases the damage when things are within close range to you, so that's not bad. Crit Stack will have its anomaly power boost increased by 21%. This is significant for those that are using crit stacking. So my Bleeding Volcanic Rounds build, this can now be quite viable because there we're actually trying to stack a bunch of anomaly power and convert it into firepower. And because we use a very high ammo, high fire rate weapon, you can get a bunch of crits off. And when this is going from base for 5.7 to 7 rating here, and you're multiplying it per stack. So across 5 stacks, this is basically giving you over double the AP did before. So that is a big, big deal because now it's not only giving you a ton of firepower directly, but then you could convert that AP at a higher rate 2 firepower. So this is really quite good if you're using crit stack already in your build. Next, Stand Tall will have its base firepower increased by 20% and its base anomaly power by 16%. This is nice. So Stand Tall is great because I don't think anybody uses cover in this game. And so it's a really nice tier 2 mod that will just give you, as long as you're not going behind cover, a ton of firepower and AP. So now it's even more viable when you're leveling up, when you're maybe you don't have some of the tier 3 mods you want. And in some cases, I'll have to do some testing. This may now be one of the best in slot tier 2 mods that you may want to roll for some builds that utilize both firepower and AP. So that is significant. Perseverance Shield will have its base shield value increased by 40% from base 25 to 35. Note, the patch will also fix a bug where Perseverance Shield could trigger and grant shield after death. So if you're using Perseverance Shield already, this is a nice little buff. Blazing Aegis will have the armor increased. It grants increased by 21%. So I never use this because just looking at statistically, I would other buffs that would just baseline increase your armor all the time were better than having to count on Blazing Aegis proccing. But now we'll have to look at the numbers at level 50. This may potentially be more effective under some situations. Again, you're still relying on the fact that you may have downtime with this mod, so may not grant the full armor buff all the time. But another potentially now viable option for armor mods, so which is especially helpful for people leveling up that don't have all the mods. Instead of searching for just 1 or 2 mods, you're going to have another mod if you need to increase your armor to help you out. Plate Dodger will have its armor value granted increased by 12% from base 85 to 65. Now again, these numbers may not mean a lot to people because they're saying at level 1. So this is obviously going to increase a lot more at level 50. Just basically it's going to give you 20% more armor is what you care about here. And its duration increased from 5.7 to 7 seconds. And I believe, I could be wrong, I think this increases your armor right after you dodge. So it lasts longer, you don't have to dodge as often. I've never really used this in any builds, but again, another viable option potentially to get you up to closer to those armor caps. So more variety is always good. And again, they're buffing the weaker ones as opposed to nerfing the ones that get overused, which is great. And then let's look at weapon mods. Anomaly Enhancement will have its coefficient increase from 30% anomaly to 40%. This is big. Why? Because any kind of hybrid builds, and the definition of a hybrid build is they're normally basically firepower builds that will also utilize anomaly power that gets converted into more firepower. And the way it works is you're going to need to have a class that has a skill that converts it, and then you stack Anomaly Enhancement on it, which is a tier 2 mod that it can roll on weapons. And there are a couple legendary weapons that utilize this. The most famous example I can give you for my builds is if you look at my Bleeding Volcanic Round builds for the Pyromancer, this utilizes this very effectively. So you're basically going to get another whole 10% of your anomaly power converted into firepower. And because the anomaly power on that build using the Kari set gets ridiculous, that 10% is nothing to sneeze at. This is going to basically make the firepower even higher. So this is really, really a big deal here. And then Bone Shrapnel will have its damage increased by 5% from 56.7 to 59.585. So again, this is going to be a big, this is the Bone Shrapnel, and I'm assuming this also works with the Ultimate Bone Shrapnel. I'm assuming this is a very popular tier 2 and also potentially tier 3 mod. On crit, does big AoE splash damage and it spreads bleed. So buffing it, I don't think it needed a buff, but the fact that it's doing more damage is going to make Bone Shrapnel even better of an option for you. Okay, so those are the big changes. Now let's take a really quick look at ongoing current track issues. They're still working Stadia, and I'm going to just kind of TLDR this. Stadia is still behind. So for those 6 people that are using it, Sorry, I wouldn't hold my breath for this to catch up anytime soon. And this is, I haven't really run into this, or maybe if it happens, I didn't notice it, but they're working on it. Spring that happens in Scorched Lands, in that final section, once you kind of drain the water. This is probably the last thing that's going to keep the Borealis Tundras kind of builds down. The game stuttering with multiple died during those periods because of this, which is annoying. But again, opening mod may not activate when a player uses the last magazine. That's a big thing here. Using the Tier 3 Armor Mod Pain Transfer with either the Tier 2 or Tier 3. Do remember and note, if you're using Damage Link with it, you're still going to have issues. Technomancer Plague Sower set still doesn't constantly apply its bonus. It's okay. I don't think people use this that often, but it's important if you actually have this issue. But good that they're fixing it. And the rest are the visual elements that we know before here. So those are the changes, boys. It's really exciting. I am so happy. I'm sure they did it because they, again, if you want to join one of the last havens for Outrider streaming, make sure to come and check me out. I still check out my schedule at twitch.tv/Leroy Gaming stream you out, totally legit, a non-modded lobby or anything like that. So if you like playing legit without cheating, if you love my content, you want to support my growing channel, make sure to hit like, subscribe, smash that notification button to be informed. And if you want to support me a step further financially, you can always check out the link to my merch store. Got some cool t-shirts, mugs, etc. Love your support. I'll see you guys in the next video. Look out for new build videos utilizing these patch changes coming really, really soon, boys. I'll see you in the next video.